Well, I hope you all had a great, happy Thanksgiving. Um, Hope you're keeping warm. I am definitely having a lazy end of my week here. Just trying not to spend too much money on my heater and just bundle up and stay in my pajamas, I guess. Anyhow, okay, so we're coming up to the end, and I realize this is where everyone is really burned out, and the workload seems to not let up, and then all of a sudden it's going to be over. Okay, so I want you to hang in there. I need to this week start going through work assignments and start putting in zeros to help you get an idea of where your grade's at. So let's just make this clear. I've been letting many of you turn in late work, and so I just grade as it comes, and I haven't put in a lot of zeros in assignments that are not that have not been turned in. And so right now your grade, if you look at your grade on Blackboard, and if you have empty spots in assignments, in other words, that you didn't turn in, and I didn't put a zero, the grade that you see is not fully accurate, okay? Because I didn't put in any points in there yet, so it's not acknowledging that you've missed an assignment. Does that make sense? And so I want you to have an opportunity to kind of like rectify that. So go through and look at your grade and take a look and see. If you have any questions on all this, just let me know. And so then I just want to say last that especially with the terrible events escalating and going on, and the and Islamophobia, you're going to have a hard time memorizing everything that I've covered, and I have not been able to go over Islam up in more current times like I do in my 107 class. But I'm hoping that you will be able to approach the topic of the legacy of Islam in a much more rational way than what I see taking place by even many of our politicians. And that you might have noticed in everything that we've covered in this class, that every religion and culture has a legacy of violence that could be highlighted or downplayed, and that everybody has great architecture, great art, and they have certain times where they're a moment in the sun and other times where you're just kind of going, wow, all in the name of God, huh? Not looking too good. So, you know, that's what we see, and I'm hoping that you can kind of bring that more nuanced perspective to the discourse that is taking place right now. You know, that's something that I'd like to see. Obviously, you're going to have your own kind of a view of all the stuff covered. I'm hoping that I have been able to give you, you know, enough information to really start kind of approaching this from a different perspective. And just to realize, the last thing I'm going to say really quick, you know, ISIS is doesn't really have any precedent in Islamic history that's really that similar to it. I really do think that this group is fantasizing about a time in the past that they're trying to implement. And you'll notice that the Christians being killed and the churches destroyed and other groups, these are churches and Christians that were there under Islamic rule for all this time. It's only ISIS that is really creating this kind of massive ethnic cleansing. And you'll notice that they are rabidly anti-Shiite. Okay? So this whole Sunni Shiite thing I'm discussing, okay, Iran is really, you could argue, one of the main obstacles that they're seen as the pure evil, and that the ideology of Saudi Arabia now, even though Saudi Arabia is our ally, is really the base for what what ISIS is following through on in a much more even extreme way. So you know, a lot of what you're learning here is important, and so I just want to kind of clarify again. The United States invaded Iraq and overthrew the Sunni rule after centuries. The Shiites rose to power in Iraq. The Sunnis felt displaced. There is a Shiite minority ruling in Syria, and then many Sunnis fled into radical groups into the Syrian conflict that spilled over from Iraq into Syria. ISIS stands for the Islamic State of Syria and Iraq, okay? And it's really displaced Sunnis under a very crazy, extreme ideology that has no mercy even on Muslims that don't view things their way, okay? So that's where we're left with. And my last thought is that the Syrian refugees could flee to Assad, and they could flee to the Islamic State of Syria and Iraq, and they're fleeing both, okay? So I also just want you to keep that in mind, okay? If they were ISIS supporters, as a general rule, in other words, not, you know, occasional people sneaking in, they would just go right in their own neighborhood to that state, or they would go support Assad. They want neither, okay? So these are just some food for thought in all this. And any questions, of course, just contact me. All right.